Good morning, good evening, everybody. We're so happy to be here, and we're happy to have you here as attendees and participants. A big thank you to the IAAS for having us host this, for GAIN, Food Foundation, CCAFS from the University of Wageningen. Stephanie and Doris will correct me if I've said that wrong, I'm sure. But Act for Food, Act for Change is so happy to be here and to be supported by such amazing company. And I think you can all see from us, we're bright-faced and fresh and ready to share Act for Food, Act for Change with you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of why exactly we're here. So we're here because of food systems and because we want to change food systems, especially in the upcoming future and specifically in this year. So food systems refers to how food is produced, processed, transported, and consumed. Food systems are involved in every aspect of our lives, whether you are a consumer or a producer of food. A healthy food system ensures a healthy population, environment, economies, and protects culture. Food is the one thing we all have in common. Food brings us together as families, communities, and nations. Sadly, the COVID-19 pandemic has not only been a public health crisis, it has also been a hunger crisis. Young people like us in today's digital age are perhaps more switched on and connected than previous generations. But we also deal with many new challenges: fewer jobs on the market, school dropouts, COVID-19, climate change anxiety, mental health issues, and many others. We are also increasingly facing a rising burden of multiple forms of malnutrition, undernutrition, overweight, and obesity. What we eat also impacts our environment through the energy, land, soil, water, and other things used to produce food, and to get it from its origins to our snack, meal, or even the bin. Food systems are a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. The global food system is responsible for a third of all greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than all emissions from transport, heating, lighting, and air conditioning combined. They change how land and water are used. They drive pollution as well as losses of wildlife, but they can be better shaped to avoid these sorts of damaging impacts. As young people, we are often fed the narrative that healthy, nutritious food is supposed to be too expensive for us. That as students, we aren't supposed to be able to afford food. That we are meant to be the starving students. This isn't fair. Right now, a healthy diet is a luxury. And that, what we believe this to be one of the greatest injustices. In essence, a sustainable food system is a food system that delivers food security and nutrition for all in such a way that the economic, social, and environmental bases to generate food security and nutrition for future generations are not compromised. As my teammate, Mike Kunga from Malawi has said, we want a country where our parents are educated about the preparation of a balanced and healthy diet to prevent stunted growth and malnutrition diseases in children. We know that we have the power over our decisions, and we are increasingly exercising our ability to influence, particularly in low to middle income countries, where we, young people, make up a good percentage of the population. Globally, youth from the age of 15 to 24 represents 18% of the global population. That's 1.1 billion people. And more than half of the world's population is under the age of 30. As young people, we need to act with urgency, and we need to act now to ensure the health of the planet, people, and wildlife, not just for future generations, but for ours. So that's a little overview of why we're here. And now I'd really like to hand over to our global youth leaders who are going to talk the walk regarding food systems transformations. And these 5 young people are from the UN Food Systems Summit action tracks. We have Huiyu from China, Mike from Malawi, Webster from Zimbabwe, Laggy from Fiji, and Jim from the Philippines. So I'd like to hand over to Hui first. Please take the stage.
Hi, my name is Hui Yu. I'm based in Beijing, China. I'm very happy to share what we at the Good Food Fund is doing to promote dietary shifts and also food system transformation. I have worked on food policy initiatives such as wet market reforms. We saw the role and reputation of the wet market come under scrutiny after the outbreak of COVID. But in fact, most wet markets in China sell more veggies and fruits and remain the major source of fresh and affordable nutritious foods for many people. And the root cause of COVID is the increasing demand for animal protein and unsustainable agriculture intensification. To transform wet markets and to really transform how people think about wet markets, we have a new interpretation, WET for well-being, ecology, and transformation. So if I can share screen, I want to show you that. I have edited a wet market handbook co-initiated by Slow Food Great China. It's a toolkit with key recommendations to really unleash the vast potential of wet markets to nudge healthy eating and also support local food systems and smallholder farmers. Now the handbook is being used as an instrument to engage several city governments on innovative city food governance programs, including Wuhan, with the aim of the city becoming China's first C40 good food city. Wet market reforms has become policy priority for post-COVID recovery, and we don't want to see that the wet markets simply replaced by supermarkets. I also want to share that last year during our handbook launch pop-up event, we have participants asked to buy ugly vegetables and fruits, broken tofu from the fresh produce vendors in the wet market, taste plant-based meat, and also use reusable shopping bags in order to complete missions to collect stickers of the Good Food Pledge logos. So on the left of my slide is the 8 Good Food Pledge. As you can see on the vendor, there is a Good Food Pledge logo, and the pop-up participant will win a sticker and add to her task card. We also have Good Food Chefs. They collaborated with the snack vendors to cook delicious plant-based dishes using the ugly ingredients that would otherwise be thrown away. In addition to advocating for reducing food loss and waste, the event also aimed to promote the interaction between wet market managers, vendors, residents, chefs, and also as well as other stakeholders, so as to explore more possibilities of the food markets. The wet market proposition is submitted and now being taken forward in the solution development process of the summit. And my colleague Jian Yi, he was leading the food environments workstream under Action Track 2, and now is leading the cross-cutting action area governance and planning. Through China Action Hub, we are convening dialogues to promote the summit to Chinese population and also encourage and facilitate participation from China to make the summit truly a people's summit. Last but not least, I just want to flag that all the work of China Action Hub is facilitated by youth, and we will have a wet market dialogue on 15th of June. I will send the information in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hui. That was so interesting, and it's so amazing to see how much youth is doing in China, and we're so happy to have you here. And now we're going right across the world to Mike in Malawi. Please take the stage.
Thanks so much, Sophie, and thanks so much everyone for having this meeting. I think it's a very good opportunity for us to connect and share our experiences from our different countries. So I will specifically focus from my own country, developing country in Southern Africa, Malawi. So much has been said about often how we can enhance nutrition in order for sustained gains, especially in the development of our country. So I will talk about how my experience has been staying in one of the developing countries in Malawi, especially looking at the challenges that we face, for instance, food insecurity as well as malnutrition. So the majority of the population right here in Malawi, as many of the developing countries surrounding Malawi, rely on agriculture as a way of accessing food. But most of the time, to be realistic, is our agriculture is not sustainable because we heavily depend on manual ways of doing agriculture, the use of hoes and other manual ways. These in turn are not sustainable because the majority of the population, which are the young people, as Sophia said, are not really to take up these manual ways of doing. At the same time, we look at when you consider the food wastage along the agriculture value chain is very, very high. And I was amazed in one of the meetings which I attended, the Global Youth Dialogue, where Agnes Kalibata said that almost all the food that is wasted in Europe, it's almost the same as the food that is produced in Africa. That means if Europe can stop wasting food and Africa stop producing food, then there will be an equal balance in terms of food and the like. So this has given us a look in terms of how we can improve in terms of food wastage. So I also focus on the power of the youth. I've led a very strong youth in my country, especially on nutrition. I've trained a lot of young people in my country from the two districts to be nutrition champions within their district, much focusing on having the capacity to train the community, do the community awareness on nutrition, and at most do the necessary need, especially in backyard gardens and the like. So I'll just share my also experience in terms of action that I am invited here for, which is building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. So just a few minutes, I'll share a presentation now for action track. I hope you can see my screen. Good. So as I said, aside from, I never, of course, introduced myself. I'm Mike Konga from Malawi. At the same time, I'm the Vice Chair for Action Track 5, and I'm a Global Youth Leader for Nutrition for the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement. So the experience I talked is about the scaling up nutrition. So I want to talk for the Action Track 5. So Sophie talk of the food system. I will narrow down to Action Track 5. Action Track 5 is working on building resilience to vulnerability, shocks, and stress. And this is the team, which you can see, Salim, who is the Director of International Center for Climate Change and Development, Andrine, I, myself, and Stefan. So our focus is to develop or come up with solutions are looking from the environmental resilience, social resilience, peace resilience, conflict, and fragility, because we know that talking of resilience, we cannot forget about solutions that will enhance peace and fragility. So we had 135 solutions. Now in the second wave of correcting the game-changing solutions. And right now, there have been action areas that have been developed across all the action tracks. And within Action Track 5, there are subclusters. For example, this is the subcluster under food system resilience, and all the solutions that will be coming up right now from problem from the dialogues and from other members that will be willing to contribute, to be channeled to these subclusters. So the key focus within subclusters is probably to have the youth representatives. So I'll be pushing for this because I want young people to be champion solutions that are focusing on youth. So just to be quick, I have, we established a youth team and Action Track 5. Let me just go. We established a youth team and Action Track 5, and we are 13 of us as of now, and we'll be expanding this youth team. The focus is to increase our network, and we'll be ensuring that we conduct the dialogues, especially targeting fragile countries. At the same time, identifying solutions which can be promoted under Action Track 5. At the same time, engaging in the whole entire work of Action Track 5 and empowering the vulnerable youth across all countries. So let me finish here. I just wanted to share my experience on these two angles, at the champion for nutrition in my country and the vice chair for Action Track 5. Over to you, Sophie. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's really motivating to see how much youth is doing, but also how well integrated young people are in the process, and that you're leading this is really exciting. So if you haven't done enough traveling yet, we still have a few more countries to visit. So we're going to Webster now, who's in Zimbabwe. Please, Webster, take the stage. Sorry, Mike, could you stop sharing your screen, please? Webster, I think we're having some connectivity issues with you, unfortunately. I might come back to you in a minute if you can still hear us. So if we have Laggy from Fiji on the line, would you like to take the stage, and we'll come back to Webster when the connection is back?
Thank you, Sophie. And unfortunately, you won't be able to see me. I'm having a bit of a connectivity problem, and I think I've dropped out twice. My name is Lavet Nalangiseru, and I'm currently one of the youth vice chairs for the UN food system. And I'm with Action Track 3 on boosting nature positive production. And we know that land degradation affects 40% of the Earth's surface and threatens the livelihoods, the food and nutrition security of 3.2 billion people. And this is according to the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. Therefore, protecting, managing, and restoring our natural ecosystems is a moral imperative. Briefly about the work that we are doing in here in Fiji is, and I guess in Fiji and also in the Pacific, the nature of the food issues is quite different from Africa and Europe, because for us, it is our food systems being affected by the climate crisis. And the climate crisis has compounded not only some of the challenges, development challenges, but also challenges to food production and also food consumption, and which ultimately affects consumers with respect to food prices, the availability of fresh, healthy, and nutritious, and also affordable food. And we are working with young people on building resilient food systems so that they are able to withstand the impact of the climate crisis, extreme weather events, and increasing sea level and the warming ocean. So an experience I'd like to share with in 2016, we experienced Tropical Cyclone Winston, a Category 5 cyclone, and that one single event wiped off 1/3 of our gross domestic product, and of which agriculture was one of the most hardest sector that was affected. So people were unable to access affordable food. Those who had little disposable income weren't able to afford fresh vegetables and crops in the markets. So they had to rely on or other, go for the alternative choice, which was, imported cheap food. And in the Pacific and also across in Fiji and across the Pacific, we have one of the highest rates of non-communicable diseases. So you see the interconnectedness of not only our food system, but also of the climate crisis. Smallhold farmers' right to live and work their land, and also fisher folks, is being increasingly threatened in not only by climate crisis, but also by a world of openness, mass trade, and hyper-globalized economies and markets that are putting profit before people and planet. So whether you have an interest in gender or health or development or climate change or working with grassroots communities, it's important that it's imperative that we rally behind not only the food systems, but also the youth pledge that's going to be launched on the 18th of this month, because it's important that young people have a voice, young people have a part of the game, the solutions, and also part of framing the outcomes of the summit, which will ultimately decide the future of our world food system. So I'll probably end there and hand over back to Sophie. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Lagi. That was really fascinating, and it's so interesting to hear another perspective, a different part of the world, especially when it came to trade and how open the market is becoming. So I really learned a lot from that. Thank you. I see we have Webster back. Webster, how's your connection now?
It's better.
Please take the stage.
Okay, sure. Hi guys, my name is Webster Makombe, and I'm from Zimbabwe. Please excuse my mask. I'm in public. So I'm a scaling up for nutrition youth advocate, and one of the major roles that I do play in shaping up food systems is engaging as young people, mostly adolescents. We're just talking about adolescent nutrition in general and how best we can have a breed of young people who grow up to be healthy, because we believe that if we have healthy young people today, there'll be healthier parents tomorrow, therefore doing away with some of the problems that the young people are facing now. They can be done away if they have if the young people of today are healthier parents of tomorrow. And some of the issues that we deal with is breastfeeding in the first 1,000 days, which we call the first window of opportunity. So if children are breastfed within the first 1,000 days, their life will never be the same again. And even if they miss the first window of opportunity, the second window of opportunity then becomes adolescent nutrition, whereby preparing young people for adulthood. So most of the work that we do in Zimbabwe and as a scaling up for nutrition leader usually revolves around having workshops and community capacity building workshops with young people, teaching them about the importance of nutrition and how they can lead nutritious lifestyles, and also engaging in other community projects. Like right now, as you know, 2021 was declared the International Year for Fruit and Vegetables. So as a way of nourishing people and planet together, we are going on in a tree planting initiative, and we're planting fruit trees in school. So that way, you get to combat climate change, and also you get to get food from those trees at the same time. So be nourishing people and planet together at the same time. So this tree planting initiative, mainly its focus is for behavioral change, because once we teach the students the importance of planting trees whilst they're at school, they then get back to their homes and also plant the trees. And also another key component of the work that we're doing now, especially the work that I'm doing now in Zimbabwe when it comes to changing the food systems for me is I'm currently focusing on food sovereignty. As you heard earlier on, Sophie spoke about how food has a great impact on culture. So there are countries where, you know, food waste does not only come in the form of having too much food that's also thrown away, but whereby we have a situation where there are available food sources or available resources that we can use for food, but then they are not being tapped into or they're not being used adequately. That's also another form of food waste that we're trying to do away, especially in Zimbabwe. I'm looking at it from an African perspective and from a post-colonial perspective, since most of the food systems have a Western influence. Therefore, the traditional and the local food diets are then, shunned or done away with. But then was one of the major works that we've been trying to bring back into traditional food. We're looking into issues of like
We seem to have lost Webster again, but is he back?
Yeah, I think I should just stop now because my network will continue embarrassing me. But yeah, basically that's that's the work that I do in Zimbabwe, and we also get so much support from the government, especially when it comes to agriculture, because the government is actually calling on young people to start farming, and they're even giving farms to young people who are doing well in the agricultural sector. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Webster. And sorry we lost you for a few minutes there, but I think you really highlighted the importance of culture and intergenerational culture, and how important traditional foods are, and that they are being shunned. And that's something that needs to change when we think about food system transformation. So now, last but not least, we're going to head over to the Philippines to Jim.
Thanks, Sophie. So good day, everyone, and good morning, good evening, wherever you're in the world. From the Philippines, it's the point of food systems transformation touches a lot of things, as Sophie alluded to a while ago, on what elements are found in a food system. And given the nature and the archipelagic nature, rather, of the Philippines, one of the largest challenges that we faced during the COVID, or even after the peak of COVID, was the logistical constraints, the lockdowns, which actually stalled many of the produce in farms, and some communities, some farms had to dump their food just by the wayside because the logistical costs were too high to get them to the markets. In the same manner, the urban centers that were mostly needing these produce couldn't access this the produce, and so they had that challenge in terms of food accessibility. Well, that was in the peak of the lockdowns, and so now the movement has been better, but there's also been a push from government and also from people themselves and communities to grow their own food in their backyards, and people are now seeing the value of at least having some kind of backyard garden or community garden. What's interesting now is that there is a trend in the Philippines which is called the community pantry, and it's trying to kind of put out available food for people and for those who have no access to food at all, or at least have lower purchasing power for food given the constraints of the economic lockdown. And so people have flooded and flocked to these, and helped out each other by putting out food, vegetables, people donating food, and then those who are less privileged in terms of access to food do line up, and they get what they can according to their needs. They're encouraged to get what they can. They're encouraged to get according to their needs. And some people are also encouraged to give according to what they can give, you know. What's interesting is that some of our colleagues in YPARD in the Philippines have also started an initiative called a community plant tree, right? So the other one was a pantry, this one was the plant tree, where they now work together with government and private sector and some civil society NGOs, and they're giving out seedlings for people to plant, you know, vegetables in their backyards or in their homes, just so that there's also that kind of household level food security. What's interesting, or at least what's important to note, is how these kinds of initiatives don't really settle with one specific sector. We really have to highlight the need for multi-stakeholder partnerships, you know, between government, between civil society, private sector, and even, you know, especially young people. How do we harness that? And even technologies that are coming from research institutions really need to be maximized and utilized for the impact of society. What we need to also focus on is how, beyond COVID-19 or post COVID-19, what are the pathways for young people to even elevate their participation across the food system from production to consumption? You know, not just recipients of, you know, support, but also leaders in their own way in doing these kinds of initiatives and taking on these initiatives. And I think that's important for us to look into. And it's really good to see that there are avenues for young people to be engaged even at the policy level. I hope we could do that even at the country level, where young people are not just listened to at, you know, global level policy spaces, but even at their own country where it hits home, closer to home. You know, we can make impact even through empowering and enhancing young people's participation in policy engagement. So I feel like that's crucial. And of course, I do share the same sentiments with Lagi. Being a country that faces the Pacific, we do experience an average of 22 typhoons every year. And last year was pretty intense with COVID and a huge typhoon bringing in about 1 billion pesos worth of damages across the production sector of agriculture. So there's that challenge along with COVID and the climate crisis, of course. So yeah, I think those are things to ponder about, how food transformation could be done in food systems, but also the things to highlight about what are the positive things that are at least coming out of all these challenging times. Back to you, Sophie. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. I think you've really highlighted how young people need to be the creators of the support, not just the recipients, but also how much young people are facing into the future with climate degradation, as you mentioned, and the losses of livelihoods, and really the rising cost of living as well. So I'm really eager to dig more into that in our Q&A session. But now we're going to hand over to Maureen, who's going to talk to us about this amazing pledge everybody has been mentioning, called Act for Food, Act for Change, in support of good food for all.
Thank you, Sophie. Good morning from Kenya. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're all tuned in. My name is Maureen Muketha. I am from Kenya, and I'm really excited for this. Thank you to IAAS for organizing this. I'll just share my screen and get into this. It's really exciting, and I hope, I'm sure you'll all get excited by what I'm about to share. Just to check, are you able to see my screen? You can see my screen?
Yes, everything is visible.
Yes, Maureen.
Thanks. Thank you. So the campaign, the youth-led campaign, is called Act for Food, Act for Change. And so who are the young people who are behind this pledge? You can see the map is really populated. This is a clear indication that we have representation, or the leaders who are involved in the pledge come from different parts of the world. We have people from Canada, all the way from Canada, Taylor. We've had Webster Talk, who's in Zimbabwe. We also have Lagi from Fiji. We have Hugh, China, and just to mention a few, also Dipti. You wonder, how did this campaign start? So it started off as a joke, or just from a Twitter conversation. Sophie and I saw a tweet that Lawrence Haddad had posted. Lawrence Haddad is Executive Director for GAIN, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, talking about the Eat Well, Live Well campaign pledge in Bangladesh, which Dipti was involved in. So this pledge was about young people, young adolescent Bangladesh school-going children committing their pocket money to buy healthy and nutritious foods, because they're given pocket money, but they have the control of how they spend this pocket money. So they committed to spending their pocket money to buy healthy, nutritious snacks. And so Lawrence challenged us, and we were like, Sophie and I, and also Dipti were like, yeah, why not? We can move this campaign, not just from a country perspective, but also globally to ensure all young people around the world are involved in the pledge. So we got together, did a proposal and submitted it. And it was really well received. And whilst after we submitted the proposal, we also got, so from GAIN, we got a team in GAIN that has really helped us, formulate the proposal well, and also reached out to other organizations, because I believe synergy is the magic word for this century, or the decade of action. So we got Irish government and the UK aid to fund the pledge. And while we were still finding a way of how we could work together, we partnered with Food Foundation, which was already working on a global youth movement, which was inspired by the successful Right to Food Children Charter campaign. And so we partnered, so GAIN partnered with Food Foundation. And we also believe that if you want to go far, you need to work with a community of members. So we also started thinking about, how do we involve now more young people from different parts of the world for them to bring their different perspectives. So we reached out to different youth champions who are already involved in various works, and also Action Track Youth Vice Chairs. We also reached out to the big 6 youth organizations who also recommended some core group members or some youth leaders who are now involved in the pledge. We wrote the pledge, and the pledge is actually in 12 different languages, just to ensure we do not leave anyone behind. The Act for Change solutions was submitted and shortlisted by a group of youth, the core group youth members, through a consultation process. So what is this Act for Food, Act for Change? So this youth campaign is divided into 2. We have the pledge part, and we have the actions for change. So the Act for Food, so the pledge Act for Food, it's a youth-led, promising, galvanizing action to defeat hunger, improve health, and heal the planet. And then we have the actions for change. There are a list of 17 shortlisted actions, which which is a call to action, not just for young people, but also governments and business organizations, by which they can make change at a national and also a community level. And this is actually the pledge itself. I can briefly go through it. And the pledge itself says, we know our current food systems contribute to ongoing health, climate, and biodiversity crises and violation of human rights. We will only be able to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals with a fundamental transformation of our food systems. While we, as young people, have been excluded from most political and economic decision-making processes, we are also the ones who live the longest with the consequences of the decisions made today. We pledge we pledge to act, and we demand urgent large-scale action from others, especially from decision makers in governments and businesses. As youth, we act for food, act for change, to support good food for all. So I have talked about the actions for change. They are a list of 17 actions, which you'll be able to see once the pledge is launched. But basically, these actions for change are around food and are around healthy nutrition and diet, food security and access to food, climate change, which has really been talked about, food waste as well. Food waste, we have water and sanitation, farming and agriculture. Young people need to get involved in this more, human rights, inclusivity and resilience. And how will this make a difference? How this youth campaign, the Act for Food, Act for Change campaign will make a difference is one, we seek to raise awareness on the issue of food, nutrition, climate change, and biodiversity in the media as something the youth care about. I see we are 29 participants. This is a clear indication that young people really have an interest in this. It is also another way in which this campaign will make a difference is through creating pressure on decision makers who are resistant to doing something and opening their hearts to change. It is also a campaign that seeks to inspire decision makers such as parents, school leaders, community groups, businesses, city leaders, and national leaders to make a change. And finally, it forms a red thread across the youth events in 2020. Across events in 2021 by ensuring youth are at the table in a coherent way, and not just to attend these conferences or welcomed at the table, but also for them to participate, actively participate. So what can you do? As I have seen in the chat, Mike has already put the pledge, the registration link for the launch, which will be made, or which the campaign is being launched next week on Tuesday. So it is a good opportunity for you to take part in the pledge. And we also have social media pages, which I will put in the chat box. So please get involved, and all are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. This is so exciting. Really appreciate you giving the rundown of Act for Food, Act for Change, and I can really feel the enthusiasm and motivation from you. So hopefully everybody will sign up on the 18th. Now we're going to go over to Nitya, I'm so sorry if I've mispronounced your name, and Stephanie from CCAFS Youth Strategy. Now, we were going to have a 10-minute Q&A, but we're running a little bit late on time. So if you have any questions for our speakers today, please do put them in the chat box, and speakers, please keep an eye on the chat box and reply in there. So over to you guys.
Thanks, Sophie. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Nitya Chavina and I represent CCAFS, that is the CGIAR research program on climate change, agriculture and food security. Now I know that most of the participants here have spoken a lot about their experience, their role as youth leaders, but I today represent a scientific research organization. And let me just briefly start by quickly telling you what motivated me to pursue a career in science, especially in the field of food challenges that our food systems are facing today, especially in terms of climate change. But how many of us have actually wondered how the rural communities are facing these events at a people level? You know, what is the difference? And I'm sure all of us have observed that there's a stark difference in the way that men and women across rural areas face in terms of responsibilities, tasks, as well as opportunities. Why are these just, and what can we as young people, as young researchers do to be able to close these gaps? These and a number of questions have always driven me to pursue a career where my work can contribute to the broader goals of gender and youth equality. And what better way to answer all these questions than by going through a rigorous field-based evidence collection analyzed using robust and innovative scientific techniques and methodologies. And that is why I am here today as part of a scientific institution that truly believes in research for development. So let me quickly go through, let me just share my screen here. I hope it's visible. So like I mentioned, CCAFS, which is the research program, Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security, has come up with a pathway through which we aim to include youth in food systems transformation. But let's begin from the beginning of this story. As we all know, and as has been rightly pointed out by our speakers here as well, that climate change is increasingly having severe negative impacts on our food systems, while the food systems themselves are also part of the problem through direct and indirect emissions. But majority of the developing countries are also largely dependent on agriculture, which is projected to suffer significantly from these extreme events. And I think one of our speakers here has already pointed out how just one extreme event can be so devastating for the entire country. But at the same time, all these countries are also home to significant youth population, which is expected to further increase by 62% over the next 3 decades. And this youth bulge brings with it its own set of issues, especially in our rural regions. Majority of the rural youth today are unemployed. They have limited education or skill set to gain employment opportunities. And at the same time, they also have very limited access to productive resources, including finance, which discourages them to pursue an agricultural journey. And these conditions combined with the extreme climate impacts also pushes them to migrate in certain cases. So if we want to ensure that this massive demographic dividend is utilized productively, it's important to understand that they form an integral part of the food system transformation in a changing climate. So how do we go about doing that? First, let's understand how our food systems can become more resilient to climate change. And one of the answers here is to understand what is climate smart agriculture, or CSA as we like to call it. CSA is basically an approach to transform and reorient agricultural systems to better support food security under the new realities of climate change. These are basically different technologies, practices, services, and a number of enabling factors that help in increasing productivity, reduce emissions, and develop overall resilience of the food systems. And youth can play an active role in protecting the environment through implementing these innovative CSA solutions. We at CCAFS have already engaged in a lot of youth-focused initiatives through the program. In Africa, for example, we have explored the role of youth in dairy chains with youth partners by creating a WhatsApp platform for networking and facilitating peer-to-peer learning sessions. In South Asia, on the other hand, we facilitated CSA employment and entrepreneurship opportunities for youth, including the manufacturing of CSA technologies and also acting as facilitators in agro-service sectors. To give an example of one of our success stories, one of our young farmers has actually turned his farm into a climate smart agriculture excellence center. And he now makes extra income by teaching other farmers to adapt to this perennial climate related impacts by adopting different CSA technologies and practices. So by using CSA, farming activities can actually become less risky and therefore more profitable. And with this, young people could find it more appealing to pursue agriculture as a sector for their futures. So we came up with a pathway or a opportunities key research systems that we need to consider. In terms of research priorities, we have 5 focus in
Sorry, Nitya, we're losing you slightly. The connection doesn't seem to be on our side today. So I think we'll go to Stephanie for now, and we are running out of time anyway. So maybe Stephanie can give a brief synopsis of what we've missed from Nitya.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sophie. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I'm a student assistant at CCAFS and I'm a master's student at Wageningen University in Research. So what my colleague Nitya was basically getting to is that CCAFS has been working hard on the youth agenda. And so we are super proud and excited to announce that later this year, we will be part of the run-up to COP26. This year, the United Kingdom will host the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties, also known as COP26, in Glasgow from the 1st of November to the 12th. Italy will be hosting the pre-COP, also known as All for Climate Italy 2021, focusing on how to include youth in climate action. CCAFS, in partnership with Wageningen University and Research, the International Association of Students in Agricultural and Related Sciences, and the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, will be hosting the event, Driving Global Youth Action for Climate Adaptation in Food Systems. Engaging with youth is crucial to transform food systems. While we are the most vulnerable group to the current and future impacts of climate change, we also offer ways forward. And that's why empowering young people and collaborating with youth organizations is key for long-term adaptation. At CCAFS, our primary goal is to help kickstart the global pledge to get 100 million young people to act for food by 2030. The event later this year aims to support the pledge in reaching the first 1 million signatures by September 2021. In the run-up to the event, we have some really cool things in store for you guys. A secondary aim of the event is that we want to showcase impact and actions of climate adaptation in food systems, particularly by youth. And what better way to do that than a competition? We are giving you the chance to show us your climate actions and initiatives specifically related to food systems. This competition is open to everyone, worldwide, and also all ages, as long as you are part of a youth initiative or network. You can share your action through a vlog, which will need to be emailed to us, and we will then upload the vlog on our YouTube and promote it on the website, which will be launched next week along with the Global Pledge. In addition to being able to network with other individuals or organizations, there will be prizes. The winner of the competition will have their vlog presented during the pre-COP event, while second place will be offered the chance to complete a free online course at Wageningen University. Now, that is a lot of information, so we'll post a link to a Google form in the chat where you can sign up and receive further emails regarding the competition, the Global Pledge, the pre-COP event, and so much more. To help you get inspired, we have a quick video showing you an example of a really cool vlog. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Eid to all, have a great weekend, and stay safe.
As the Climate Smart Agriculture Youth Network, we are helping young people to transition from the normal agriculture to climate smart agriculture, because we do believe that this is an opportunity for them to get decent employment. We also believe that this is an opportunity for them to get involved and engaged in the climate action discourse, but also we do believe that this is an opportunity for them to help our country become food secure and even food sovereign. And we do this in very many ways. I can just name of two. We work with students who are taking agricultural courses to change their perception about agriculture, but also to build their capacity on climate smart agriculture concepts so that they can be able to transition out of universities and out of their schools and out of their tertiary institutions to become young farmers, to become young agripreneurs who are leading profitable but also sustainable agricultural enterprises. As well, we usually also have the Climate Smart Agriculture Excellence Centers, which are practical demonstration farms of climate smart agriculture in practice. We do believe that agriculture is also quite practical, and so having these farms helps young people to come and learn from other young people about how they can be able to transition to climate smart agriculture. And so as young people, we really need to get involved in climate action and climate adaptation. This is because the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else is going to save it. And so we really need to get involved in climate adaptation so that we can be able to secure our livelihoods, we can be able to create decent employment opportunities, we can help our countries to become food secure, but as well, we can help our planet to adapt to the changing climate. So how are you getting involved in climate adaptation? Let us.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We are 1 minute over, which I think is very impressive for us. Thank you everybody for attending today, and please do follow all the links and the hashtags that are in the chat. We really want you to get involved. This is the year for food system transformation, and as Victor has showcased in CCAFS video and Stephanie has rightly put it, we need to act, and we need to act with urgency. And the only way we can do that is by acting together. So please do follow up on everything that's been shared today. And hopefully we will see you on the 18th for the launch of Act for Food, Act for Change. And we'll also see you at our pre-COP event. And I can't wait to watch all the videos that you input to CCAFS in the near future. Thank you so much to the IAAS for having us. And hopefully more to come with us and IAAS into the future. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very interesting, and I hope we will raise attention on your pledge and that people will sign up. Count on us to share all of this on our social media as well. So thank you all. And now I have to end the session to host the next one. But thank you very much. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.